it really is remarkable. It's tough to even try to encapsulate it, here on a podcast. So I hope you guys will go check out the story on The Athletic. But as you alluded to, it's been quite the journey. Donny Sands lost his dad at 15 of a heart attack, and not long after that death, his whole world really unraveled. The family had very difficult times financially. They lived in Tucson, briefly lived in Albuquerque. The mother, Alma, and her family originally hailed from Mexico. She really had a tough time getting work, ended up, going to Mexico where her family was able to help her out with a couple of jobs. And this is all going on while Donny Sands is trying to be a high level athlete, and an incredibly talented baseball player. That kind of led to him staying in Tucson while his mom was working in Mexico, and the family was evicted from multiple residences. That led to Donny often sleeping in a 2006 Toyota Camry. I can't imagine that, being a high school student, a high school athlete, that's hard enough. Imagine not having a home to go to. Imagine not having, he's talked about he didn't really have clean clothes. All his possessions were scattered in the back of his car. He talked about he didn't always attend class a lot. I guess he somehow managed to do enough to pass and get by. Oh, and on top of all that, he ended up being a Major League Baseball draft pick. And that's far from the end of his story. He moved to catcher just after a year or two in pro ball, and he was terrible. Like, he was really bad and worked his butt off. A big mentor of his was Josh Paul, who was on the Tigers staff last year. Was in the Yankees system at the time. Basically, he lived 5 minutes away from Josh Paul, stayed with the host family one off season. Basically asked Josh, "Hey, if I stay in Tampa, will you continue to work with me?" And Paul said, like, that's the only time I've ever had a player ask me something like that. And I said yes. And so they worked day in and day out for an entire offseason. Sands' work continued throughout the minors. And he went from having an absurd amount of passed balls in low A and high A to now being regarded as a very good receiver. He's got tattoos that are kind of a reminder of his journey all over his body. Absolutely an inspirational story, just the sheer fact he's here. And as it relates to baseball, you certainly have to wonder what is next. This guy's certainly in the mix of the catching competition, and after you learn more and more about his story, it's tough not to root for him.